All right. Shabbat Shalom, family. Shalom. We're here for another day, another blessed Sabbath. Got a good lesson for you today, right? As you can see, the title it says "Being Wise or Foolish," right? And I think that's very important um, for the simple fact, like our lives are based off on decisions made being wise or foolish, right? Like what is wisdom, what is being unlearned, what is not having understanding. And I think we make a lot of really bad decisions based off of being unwise, right? Or making an unwise decision, right? And we shouldn't do that. Me myself, I could talk about all my unwise decisions I've made. So I try to limit those as much as possible, right? And I limit those unwise decisions by talking to the Most High, right? Asking Him, like, should I eat this? Should I do that? Um, should I go here? Should I not go here? Anything, right? For the simple fact is because, like I said, when you make a decision, you alter the path, right? So let's say God got a path for you to go straight, and when you're going straight, you run into like a roadblock, not realizing God going, break that roadblock or destroy that roadblock. And what you do is you wind up saying, oh, well, God take it too long or whatever. Not realizing he may have the roadblock up for a certain reason, because it could be something behind it. He getting rid of it. Then once he get rid of it, then you can go that way, right? And we wind up choosing to, going the wrong way, the opposite way, right? We'll choose the wrong way and go to the opposite way because that's not what we want to do. We want to take a shortcut, right? So now, instead of you waiting for God, which is the better decision or the more wiser decision, you will make a foolish decision, right? Now it's a situation where you're thinking to yourself, like, oh, well, if I go this way, it's cool. And when you go that way, right? And don't get it twisted, you might be successful sometimes because sometimes God may want you to go that way, right? But it's a difference when you asking him and talking to him, he tell you to go that way compared to when you do it yourself, right? Because you don't know the dangers behind that. You don't know the dangers behind that route, anything, right? And then you take that path. So now you was going straight, but now you went this way, right? But in order to get back up here, you gotta go this way, come all the way down here, come all the way back up. Now you wasting time, right? I ain't gonna say you wasting time per se, but time has changed, right? Because you extended the time, right? I give this glaucoma test at work, ask me how long the time is. And I said, well, look, it's based on you. If you're doing well or if you following directions, cool. But if you try to outdo the machine or you want to do your own thing or you're having trouble seeing, that extends the time. So for instance, my machine, I say, look at the lights, focus on the lights, right? Don't focus on the sound of the machine because that doesn't mean the lights are flashing. They clicking the button, click, 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 click. And they be like, I got the pattern down now. Every time the machine move, that means the light coming. That's not what that means. But they got it, right? So now they're being foolish and like, woo, that took a long time. Yeah, because you wasn't listening. I'm trying to tell you something like, I'm trying to help you out. This doesn't bother me. I'm not taking the test. So we got to think about all the wise decisions and the foolish decisions that we make. Like I said, myself, a wise decision. I asked God to give me a car. He got me a car. I was safe. I was in a position where I could pay for the car. I wasn't struggling to pay for the car. Car would have been paid off by now. What I do? I want another car. I want a better car. I upgraded. Don't consult with God about it. He let me get it. Did it again. Upgraded for other reasons for the second upgrade. But did it again. Now I'm like, well, God, if I had just more money, I could pay for this car. I wouldn't even be in a situation if I just didn't listen. If I just listen to God, right? So foolish decisions will cost you. Doesn't mean God can't fix them, right? Or God can't get you through it, but it just slows down the process sometimes. And you listen to God, He can speed up the errors that you made, right? So it's definitely important to listen to the Most High and focus on God, right? Always definitely important to listen to the Most High because, like I said, without Him, it's gonna be a rough road. I've made plenty of decisions without God, and I've made plenty of decisions with God, and the ones I made without God, like I said, it cost me. The ones I made with God, it was nothing but fruitful and beneficial, right? So we're gonna start this day's lesson off. I'm gonna say the Lord's Prayer, and we'll get it in. So, in 1 second. Why did it do that? Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we give our debtors, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. All right. So back to the regularly scheduled programming. Being wise or foolish. All right. So always gotta define terms for the most part, especially for the people that's new, right? And some people don't realize it's like this is part of your Bible. I was talking to my brother the other day, and somebody wanted to know about the word virgin, and I told him just because it says virgin doesn't mean this person hasn't had sex, right? In the Bible sense, not in the world sense, but in the Bible sense doesn't mean they had sex. And the reason why I say is somebody that never had sex because men aren't called virgins. This is only a title given to women, right? But it means a woman of young marital age. So when they're doing the translations, right, like all these Greek words, they got to try to find the best English word sometimes to fit it, right? And since this book was written a long time ago, and then the English has been always updating, it's going to change and alter depending on what's going on in the world. So it's another thing to be careful. But you always go back to the original, whether it's Greek or Hebrew, and find out what's going on, right? So this is Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. It says, "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves." Right? Wise as serpents, harmless as doves, right? That word wise is the Greek word 5429, right? Phronimios, right? And it says thoughtful, that is sagacious or discreet, implying a cautious character, right? Denotes practical skill or acumen, indicates rather intelligence or mental acquirement. Now it says in a bad sense, conceited, right? So this can also be used in the bad words. Like you think you wise for your own good. And it's a form of conceited, right? But this one is talking about intelligence, right? And it says serpent. So the serpent is clearly a cunning animal, right? But not only that, is the serpent is also another word used for angels, right? For the cherubim, for the seraphims, I believe, right? And so when you see serpent, sometimes it may not just mean actual snake or a dragon or something like a lizard form, right? It could also mean an angel, right? That's why I say the serpent in the garden, it can go either way. You can look at him as this fire-breathing dragon. You can look at him as this beautiful angel, right? They're also called fiery serpents, right? But people won't know that unless they go do their research. They read their book, find out what's going on, look up terms, got to understand things been translated. Things are not what they once was, right? I remember, like I said, I remember looking in the Bible and I would see where it said Jeremy. I'm like, who is Jeremy? And Jeremy is Jeremiah, because that's how the Greeks say Jeremy. I mean, Jeremiah, they say Jeremy, right? So sometimes you got to go define words, right? So this next one is Proverbs chapter 11, verse 30, right? The word is H2450, right? And it's Chakam, right? So it says the fruit of the righteous is a tree of life, and he that winneth souls is wise, right? So we supposed to be winning souls anyway, right? That's what you're supposed to be doing, winning somebody's soul. Like when I'm at work, I'm around, and people think I'm judging them. I'm like, nah, I'm just concerned for y'all souls. Like that's all I'm here for. I'm really for y'all souls, right? Because I don't think you understand the resurrection or the judgment, but that's something we're supposed to be teaching according to Hebrews 6, right? But people don't really talk about that. So I'm here for your soul because you don't want those things, right? And as you see right here, it says wise, that is intelligent, skillful, cunning, or subtle. Remember in Genesis, right? I don't have it up. Remember in Genesis chapter 1, not chapter 3, I'm sorry. When it's talking about the serpent, it says the serpent was more subtle than any beast in the field, right? It's more wise, right? So wise creature, right? In that particular case, it's talking about Lucifer or Samuel, whatever you want to call him, but the adversary, he's real subtle, right? So he's like, hey, I'm really, really smart, right? And that's how he always tricks people, right? Always, making them doubt stuff, question things, right? And that's the whole point, right, of being wise, right? Not to trick somebody, but to outsmart somebody, right? To be smart, to make a better decision. So we got to be wise, right? But not in, like I said, a deceitful way, not in a way to get over on people or whatnot. That's why it says we also got to be harmless as dove. So you be smart like a serpent because they real smart, right? So you avoid danger. You know when to, do this, know when to say this or whatever, but you also be harmless about it, right? You're not trying to hurt nobody. You're not trying to cause no mischief and things like that, because clearly that's a problem, right? So we don't want to do that, right? So to be wise, right? So I'm gonna give you some examples in Proverbs, mostly all of them in Proverbs, but examples of being wise, right? That's the first one. It says Proverbs 1, chapter 1, verses 5 to 6. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings, right? So when you understand the proverb, right, these words of the wise, right, these interpretations, this is what you're looking for, right? This is what you're trying to do. This is what you're trying to gain. This is what the understanding you're looking for, right? Even right here, it says a wise man will hear and will increase learning, right? And a man of understanding shall attain to wise counsel. So now you got people that's older than you, elders and whatnot, they give you information. You're supposed to listen to it, right? When it's wise information, right? And like I said, you question wise information about, is this the right thing to do? Is it based off something like what God would want you to do, right? That's really critical, right? Like, hey, should I go touch that fire? I don't think so. Don't think you should do that. But people make a lot of unwise decisions, right? And sometimes it may be just like a common sense decision, right? Like I seen somebody try and pour gas into their car, but they don't have the nozzle piece, right? So they're pouring gas into the car or trying to, and the gas is coming out. At no point they just stop. They just pouring the whole tank. Just keep on going, keep on going. That's not wise. Right? Yeah, you might have made a mistake because you was paying attention, you're going too fast, so you didn't know. But when you going to stop? People don't do that, right? Let's say you driving without a license or something like that, right? It's not really wise for you to keep driving without a license, right? Because now you in a danger zone, right? Because when you get pulled over, you take a chance of making it worse because you're not supposed to be driving anyway, right? You already on restrictions or some type of limitations, right? That's not wise, right? A lot of things people do, like I said, isn't wise, right? They go to the grocery store hungry, and they're basing the stuff they're buying off their hunger instead of what's on their list, if they even have a list. It's not wise, right? Because you already might have a budget, but you go over your budget because of desires. That's not a wise decision, right? So the more you listen to wise people, the more you increase your learning. I know that for myself, that when I, started reading the Bible, it was a lot different than it is now because my understanding is growing, right? And because I'm seeking for wisdom, seeking for truth, instead of just seeking for my own understanding, instead of, just trying to let me be smart, right? But even I'm smart, I can still be foolish, right? Because like Solomon was a pretty wise king and he still did foolish things, right? Because it's not about you just being stupid or ignorant, because we all stupid, we all ignorant, we all dumb to some degree in some fashion, right? We shouldn't be stupid, because stupid is when you're actually choosing to ignore what you know. But dumb, you may not know something, right? Ignorant, you may not have information or something. That's cool. But when you're constantly or you're willingly dumb, this is when you're dwelling in the land of just being foolish at all times, right? But like I said, you can be foolish and make mistakes. It's possible. It happens, right? It's not a problem, right? But then you correct them by learning from them, right? Doing wise things. So for instance, like myself, I ain't constantly keep doing the same mistakes over and over again. Like when it's a big mistake and I seen that, I won't do that no more. If it's a car, I'll never get that car again. Oh, well, there's nope, won't get it. Don't worry about it. Right. But like I said, it's not a wise decision, right? So like I got situations where certain shoes can't fit my feet. Only certain shoes get my feet. No matter how much I like that shoe, I'm not going to buy it because it's going to cause damage to my feet. If I do that because I want to look and I want to, have people like me or like my shoes and compliment my shoes because they look nice. And I ain't going to lie, there's a lot of shoes I like that look nice, but I can't fit them, or it does some damage and things to my foot. That's so unwise. That's a foolish decision, but we do it all the time, right? So this is Proverbs chapter 8, verse 33, 35. It says, hear instruction and be wise and refuse it not. Blessed is the man that hears me, watcheth daily at my gates, waiting at the post of my doors. For whoso findeth me findeth life and shall obtain favor of the Lord, right? So it says, hear instruction and be wise. So many people, like I said, reject instruction. That's not wise, right? Now, mind you, you can't have incidents where somebody's telling you or instructing you to do something, right? And it's a bad thing, right? But for the most part, when you're in certain places, certain things, instructions is, you know what I'm saying, it's for your safety, it's for your protection, it's for your betterment. Like I said, I'm at my job, I tell people, don't listen to that machine. That's what they do. They're not listening to instructions, right? They actually refusing it, right? And at the end of the test, they're like, man, I should have listened to you. Yeah, you should have. Now you messed up. The doctor gonna be mad. You gotta come back here again. So now you gotta waste time, right? And that's probably now you mad because you gotta come back and waste time. That's all your fault, right? Because you didn't want to do instructions. Because my thing is why would I tell you something bad? I don't lose or win if you do bad or good, but I want you to do good so you don't gotta come back here no more. You give a good result to the doctor, and everything is good going forward. Nah, you don't want to listen, right? So instruction is always good. If I'm telling somebody, hey, you only pour 5 quarts in here and they pour 7, they're gonna mess their car up, right? Instructions is good. Like I said, people get devices all the time, and they'll get a device and don't even read the device. Don't read the instructions or never just open it, play with it. Don't realize you're supposed to turn off at a certain time or supposed to do this, right? That's not wise, right? Because then when something happen, go wrong, you like, well, I couldn't do that or this and that. You ain't listen to no one type of instructions. And when it's coming to God, you should listen to all his instructions, right? How he wants you to treat people, treat your spouse, treat your friends, even treat your enemies, how he wants you to build, do this, do that, all these things, right? Because it's instructions. So for instance, Solomon had all these women. He told Solomon, because I guess you already know Solomon, you can get all the girls because clearly you're rich, you're smart, everybody loves you, right? Just don't talk to the girls that's not from here that don't worship me. They're going to turn you away. Solomon is the wisest man on earth, and he still did the other thing. He did foolish and started talking to other girls. And guess what happened? The kingdom goes down really bad. Solomon is not walking in the lines of David. He's over here building temples. He's over here building shrines and statues and all these things for them to worship and sacrifice people on. This is the wisest man on earth, right? And he's doing all these bad things, right? Made a foolish decision when he had clear instructions, right? Just not following instructions, right? His heart gave into him. A lot of times our heart give us up too, right? And you don't want that to happen. You don't want your heart to be the cause of no problems. Proverbs 13, verse 14, it says, the law of the wise is the fountain of life to depart from the snares of death, right? So it says the law of the wise, right? It's talking about God as the fountain of life, right? And I was just reading today in Proverbs chapter 3, right? It talks about the law, right? And it's saying the more you keep the law, it extends your days in life, right? The longer you keep the law, you follow that instruction, you're in that guidance, it'll extend your days in life. When you break the law, which is sin is the wages of death, right? Wages of death is sin. So you're not following the law, you're going to shorten your days, right? You following the law, you can extend your days, right? And people are going to say, yeah, well, some people die, this and that. But it's the thing, though, you don't know what they're doing, though. I tell people this all the time. You have no idea what somebody's doing in their life when you're not around them, right? People put on the best fronts and the best upfront things and stuff like that, right? They do all these things and they look like that. They look presentable, right? But you don't know what people are doing. I was having a conversation with one of my brothers last night, and I was telling him, I was like, you'd be surprised how many people been in church like their whole life and never read the Bible straight through, right? And I'm not knocking nobody, I'm not shaming nobody, but just think about somebody been in church 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and never read this book. But I meet people all the time that read books. There was a girl I met, she read like 1,000 books in 1 year. And I'm pretty sure none of them was no book in the Bible, let alone the Bible in itself, probably no book in the Bible, right? So just think about that, right? And where that law is coming from, you know, extending your life, extending your days. The people do read, but they don't even read the book, right? So how you know in this chapter or this particular book is some answers for your life that you just was looking for, right? You go to church, and church is cool. Gotta go to church, right? Church is part of the family, it's part of learning, it's part of education, it's part of the congregation, it's part of fellowship, and it's a lot of things that come with church. But you also need to spend time with God yourself. You also need to read the word yourself, right? And understand the law. But like I said, people break the law. Nobody try to follow the law. My little sister, she was like, I said, when you getting your license? Well, I don't really see the point. I mean, I couldn't get it, but it's like, why I got had as imaginary. I get it. It's the law of the land, though. That's how you get to drive, right? And you're right. You can drive. People can drive without your license, right? You don't need a physical car to learn how to drive behind the wheel. But that's when you don't have this physical car. Well, they made up some rules out here that when you don't have that physical card, you go to physical jail, right? You got physical problems. You got to pay physical fines, right? So I totally get it. I get her understanding. I'm not mad at it, but it's like, yeah, why not play? It ain't nothing that's going against, God. You're not sinning because you get a license. You're not doing all those things, right? Even though you don't need a license to drive, right? Technically, you don't need one, right? But it's a whole process. Do you want to go through that process? People don't, right? So now you're making an unwise decision because you don't ride around with a license, and then you get pulled over. I'll never forget, I was riding around with my friend, doing all type of criminal activity, and I didn't know this whole time this man ain't had a license, right? He had like a learner's permit, and I think it was expired. But we got put over one day, and he would give them their military ID, but it ain't work that day. And he asked for his license, and we had to wind up, switching seats and driving somewhere else, and all that could have been really, really bad. The cop could have put up the car. I mean, he could have took us to jail. He could have done a lot of things, right? But he didn't. But just to say, like, you know you ain't had your license, but you've been getting away with it. That's not wise. That's really foolish, right? But what happens is a fool in his heart will start believing things that's not even true, right? And I'm going to talk about that when I get to the part about being foolish, right? So this is Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6-8. It says, in all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thy own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel and marrow to thy bones, right? So, yeah, it says, be not wise, right, in thy own eyes. Because, like I said, when you wise in your own eyes, you kind of like self-righteous, so you make the rules. So you make the rules, it's going to be bad. I'm telling you, it's going to be bad because now you're going to justify everything. You justify everything, right? Where's the ability to get correction? Because correction only matter when it's beneficial to you. So if I say 2 + 2 is 4, and you say it's 7, and you try to justify why it's 7, right? You ain't gonna go nowhere, right? So now you create this world, and that's what the world is now. It's like a lot of people just justifying bad stuff. No matter what they do, they justify. Oh, I smoke weed, but it's this and that, like weed from the earth. A lot of things from the earth, but you shouldn't be smoking anything, let alone weed, right? You shouldn't be smoking nothing, right? Your lungs can't even process this, right? Smoke is bad. If y'all don't know, most people die from fire, die from smoke inhalation, right? My aunt never met her when she was younger. They said she died when they had a house fire. When she died from smoke inhalation. Most people don't die from getting burned. They die from smoke inhalation because your lungs cannot process this, right? It's not meant for them to push this out, push this through the system, right? I knew a guy who smoked vapes, and he was trying to tell me vapes is healthier. I said, it's impossible, bro, because vape is moisturizer, right? So there's moistness, and that's going inside your lungs. Your lungs cannot process liquid. It's not what it's meant to do, right? If you don't know what pneumonia is, it's fluid inside the lungs. Your lungs is drowning. Same way when you drown, it's almost like a pneumonia, right? It's just over time period instead of this one instance thing when you're just drowning out and you stop breathing. But it's the same thing. You want to know why? Because your lungs cannot process liquid. And moisture or vape is a form of a liquid, right? It's just not super solid. This not gonna go well. That's a very unwise decision, right? But if you wise in your own eyes, that don't matter. Why would that matter, right? Proverbs chapter 30, verses 24-28. So I thought this one was really interesting, right? So verse 24 says, there be 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise, right? The ants are a people, not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. The conies are but a feeble folk, yet make their houses in their rocks. The locusts have no king, yet they go forth, all of them by bands. The spider taketh hold of her hands and is in the king's palaces, right? So this is talking about like things that are really, really small in life, right? Ants are small, conies, which is like rabbits and stuff. These are things that are small. Locusts, it's like a grasshopper. That's pretty small. And spiders are pretty small, right? Don't go to Australia where they got bigger ones, but even still, a spider is still small, right? Compared to a full-grown person, right? But each one of them do wise things, right? So the ants, they're not strong, right? But It said they prepare their meat in the summer, right? They got a whole little city. Have you ever seen like any movie like Ants, or just go look on Science? Ants got like a whole city, whole infrastructure, right? They're so small though, right? And they know what they're doing. They can carry like 1,000 times they weight, and they're usually in bunches, right? They working together. The conies, right? Say a feeble folk, yeah, but they make their housing in the rocks, right? Because the rocks is safe, right? Rocks don't really move. It ain't too much stuff that's damaging rock or good and through rock, right? It take a lot to get through rock, right? The rock got water, it got shelter, it got so many things, right? But these are wise decisions from little animals, right? The people just see it as like, oh, well, they're just food, or that might be a hat. Now these are wise things. The locusts, right? So they have no king, and they all go forth in the band. So they got nobody to lead them, right? There is no leading locust. There's no captain of the locust, but they all know as like, look, we deep, we can do whatever we want. That's why when they come to see them, they come in swarms. There's a bunch of them, right? So just like people, they don't realize like, yeah, as a group, we more united. What can they do compared to just one of us, two of us, right? I tell people all the time, if y'all just gather up, they can't lock everybody up. You ain't got enough handcuffs, right? But we don't even need a leader. That's just common sense, right? Right? Common sense. But there's something about being wise that a lot of people don't have, right? They don't have that. They don't show that. It's not a thing. It said the spider taking hold of her hands, right? The spider does have hands. So you see it got 4 legs, or it has 8 legs, apparently, according to science. But God don't see it that way, because 4 of the legs go up and 4 of them go back. The 4 that go up is the hands, which is crazy, because when you look at a spider and his webbing, right, is weaving the web, is using his hands, right? But it said take a hold of their hands as in the king's palaces. So a spider is so small, and you try to do this, and it can still be in the king's palace, right? Still doing what they want to do. Spiders be everywhere, in your house, garages. It could be super clean. Spiders still get their way, right? Going through all these little cracks and crevices, and you can't see the web. The web's super strong. So all these little small creatures even still got wisdom, right? Still got wise decisions. So there's no reason, no excuse why we won't make wise decisions. Because like I said, without making wise decisions, it's going to cost you, right? I'm going to talk about that in a second with these little stories coming up. So don't be foolish, right? So there's a lot of things that can make you cause a lot of pain just from being foolish. And the first one is Psalm chapter 14, verse 1. It says, to the chief musician, the Psalm of David. The fool have said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good, right? So this is all for your atheists or people who don't believe in God, or they do believe in God, right? But let's say they do believe in God, right? But they create God in their own mind. Everything they've done is abominable. But if they don't believe that in their heart, because they don't believe in God and God's rules and a book and somebody being lectured to, it's a problem, right? Because now they become wise in their own eyes. And like I said, if you're wise in your own eyes, this is where the danger kick in, right? I can smoke weed, I can get drunk, I could be a fornicator. This is where the danger kicks in, because like I said, now you don't realize what you're doing. One, you're endangering yourself. You're hurting the people around you. You're hurting your community. You're hurting so many things just because you making up your own rules, right? Saying that there is no God. But I tell people this all the time. This is the only way this works. And this is something that you would take as wisdom. The world is 2 things. It's either there's a creator or there is no creator. And I'm not gonna lie, both situations are scary. Because the creator, he has to be some type of super powerful creature to the point where he can't even show his face to Moses, or Moses is going to die, right? That's insane. Or there is no creator, right? But if there's no creator, who makes the rules? And if the rules are made by the people who got money, that's not good. And the rules are made by people who are kings, who could be dumb, that's not good. If the rules are made by people just in a group, like we all vote for it, that's not good. And the reason why it's not good, because there's no standard. It only changes depending on how we want to. And this is the reason why, this is the problem we have now, right? Because nobody wants to agree to a sovereign supreme standard, right? Especially on moral rules. Certain things can be changed. Yeah, baseball, basketball, nobody care about that. But moral rules, morality, that needs to be standard, right? And since it's not standard, this is why you got loopholes. This is why you got creating things, because God don't have no loopholes in his law. The law has loopholes, right? Because the people who made the law are evil. So of course it's going to have loopholes and escape routes and things like that. But God's law, it don't work like that, right? It work like that at all. So if somebody's in their heart doing these things, this is going to be a problem, right? And I'm going to show you examples about what happens when somebody's foolish. 1 second. So this is Proverbs 10:1. It says the Proverbs of Solomon: a wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish son is the heaviness of his mother. Right. And then you got Proverbs 10:8. It says the wise in heart will receive commandments, but a praying fool shall fall. Right. So when you wise in your heart, you're going to want commandments, right? You're going to want the instruction because, like I said, it's better for your life. But it says a praying fool shall fall, right? So somebody who don't want it, they're going to fall, right? And that's usually what happens because you're teaching somebody something and they don't want to listen. Usually it's going to go bad. Not bad necessarily like they're going to be super hurt or whatever, but they're not going to be able to get it right because they're constantly trying to do something, right? They're trying to do something their own way and not realizing sometimes the way you do it is not the way. Sometimes it's only one way to do things. Not even gonna lie. Sometimes it's only one way to do things. But the problem is, like I said, they go around. They try to do so many things, right? So let's say a couple want a baby, right? Instead of asking God and just waiting, what they do? They pay tens of thousands of dollars, going through clinics, going through procedures, all these things. They taking medicine, they taking vitamins, they doing inseminations. They doing all these things, right? Taking this risk of trying to get a baby, not realizing like that's not how it really works, man. Can it be done? Yeah, but then like I said, when it's done, it's a lot of complications, right? It's a lot of things you understand. So like if somebody's having sex, right, the semen is releasing to the woman automatically. But then when you go through a process, you put it in a tube. That tube not 100% sterile, right? Are you going through any type of surgery? Like let's say you're giving somebody like medicine, it can cause a problem to the baby, right? Not even realizing it. You may not be affected by it, but the baby be affected by it, right? Because it's not a natural process. Same thing with chickens. They clone chickens. Like that's not a natural process. Yeah, they getting chickens, sure, but they probably getting chickens with missing wings, missing legs, super sized chickens, super small chickens, because you going out the natural process. That's very unwise, right? But we don't see it like that because we see it as like it's beneficial, right? Even in verse 1, it says, but a foolish son is heaviness of his mother, right? So if you want to be a fool, you're going to be stressing your mother out. You want to know why? Because now your mother is always worried. Mom's already worried. They women, they already worried, right? And the more bad stuff you do, you'll stress your mother out, right? The more stuff you do that's like foolish, like I used to stay out late, right? After my sister had passed away. My mom said, I used to, hey, I can't sleep that way. I'm like, oh, so now I got to check in just to let her know I'm good here and there because I'm being foolish for real. Ain't no reason for me to be out 2 o'clock in the morning, but I'm out. Whatever. It is what it is, right? Can't change the fact that I was, but that's not smart, right? But then it says a wise son make a glad father. Sorry, when you wise, the father's gonna be happy, so the mother will be happy, right? They go hand in hand. So then we got Proverbs 14, 10 and 14. I'm sorry, I don't know why I put that one up there. It says, wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction, right? So the wise man lays up knowledge from his Lord and he'll give it to other people, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction, right? Because he always talking about foolishness and talking about bad stuff and talking about this and that, right? Not realizing he's destroying people, right? Because it's a thing. You can't be, when you following God, you're making wise decisions or righteous decisions, it got to be straight across the board, right? One of my friends, he was talking to me about the police and people in the like that doing the street life and about snitching. I said, well, they all, snitching. That's part of the game, so I understand it. But I said, when cops do dirty stuff, that's a lot worse because they're supposed to be the law. So if I'm the law and I'm upholding the law, but then I break the law, I'm worse than them, right? Because they don't really have no laws, right? They just out here doing whatever they want to. It's kind of like the law of the jungle. But I'm supposed to be the one upholding the law. So like when I see cops speeding, but then pull you over speeding, that's crazy, right? That's like a hypocrite. But they do this, right? And the problem is like I said, that's not saying that you're being unwise because you shouldn't be speeding. So you ain't speeding, you ain't got no real fight. You ain't got nothing to say. It's no problem. But when they speeding, right, they doing this because they become wise in their own hearts. They become righteous in their own hearts. And they did do that, they're going to do whatever they want to do. Not realizing God got something for them, right? But same thing with your mouth, the way you talking crazy to somebody. I just saw a video of this dude was talking crazy to somebody. And it's like, yeah, you doing all this, but you self-destructive, right? Because nothing you saying is wise. You can't control your emotions. You're making a real bad decision. So you also don't want to make bad decisions and being foolish with your mouth neither, right? A lot of people are fooling them out. And I tell you all the time, you have no idea where somebody's going to take you. How was that Proverbs? All right, so I didn't write that one. All right, so this is Proverbs 12, 15, and 16. It says, the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise. A fool's wrath is presently known, but a prudent man covereth shame, right? So I've done shameful things, and I try to cover them up. Now, God say you shouldn't cover them up, but I'm a prudent man. I'm trying to cover it up because you don't want nobody to see their shame. Some fools, they just, hey, we out here dressing any kind of way, exposing themselves, letting you know about all they bad and making it known as if it's like a badge of honor. Oh yeah, I do that. I do this and that. You know what I'm saying? I do drugs and I got 15 baby mothers. That's crazy. You should be we should know that you had that many baby mothers, right? Because that's nothing to be proud of. But nowadays, like I said, it's not frowned upon. It's like, oh, okay, well, he got the money, he can do it. Or she got the money, she can do it. That's a fool, right? When I'm doing bad things, I committed a crime, I committed this, I committed that, I'm supposed to cover that up. You ain't supposed to know that. I mean, God will expose it if he wants to, if need be, but I'm not supposed to do that, right? I'm not supposed to be out here pushing foolishness. I'm not supposed to be out here putting it on the pedestal as if it's a good thing, right? But that's what the world does. Like the TV shows, the music, a lot of it's really foolishness, right? And people are exalting foolishness. It would throw me off so much. And they'd be like, yeah, this music that y'all listening to and this and that. And it's like, yeah, but y'all listen to it. Y'all support it. Because it's very rare where I hear any kind of music that's like uplifting and positive and good. Most of it's bad. Most of it's trauma. Same thing with the TV. Most of it's bad. Most of it's trauma. But you don't realize you're promoting foolishness, right? Suppose I had type of shame, but then I start realizing they selective with the shame and the foolishness. So if it's a person they like, it don't matter what somebody do, they'll like excuse the shame or justify it. But if somebody they don't like, they will get mad about somebody being righteous. Ain't that crazy? Somebody being righteous and you're getting mad at somebody for being righteous, right? Like I said, not understanding we supposed to be righteous. That's the problem. Everybody's unrighteous. Solomon fell off unrighteous. First Kings, Second Kings, Chronicles. It's a bunch of kings being unrighteous, doing things that God don't want them to do, right? Constantly, right? Those are unwise decisions, right? Say the way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth to counsel is wise. Like I said, if it's right in his own eyes, it don't matter what's going on. Because like I said, he gonna make it justifiable in his eyes to the point where whatever he do, no matter what the deed is, it's cool. Now, when he does that, and he can get people to believe that it's cool, right? Then it's a problem. So I think a lady just got, what they say, unalive the other day by the ISIS. She ran up one of the people and they shot her or something like that. I haven't seen it. I ain't looked into it. I'm not about to go in depth about it, but people were saying, yeah, that happened. But I said, it's a thing, though. That's very unwise of her to do that. One, I don't know what you're trying to do. All right, because they got a job, they doing their job. You should have a job too. You don't have a job, go home, find a job, do something, right? Because when you ain't got no business, this is usually when you get in trouble, right? That's number one. The second thing is not only they got a job, these people who are shooting, a reason why a lot of cops are killing people, right? When they kill people, not because it's the right thing to do, but they're not really trained to shoot somebody to like de-arm them or, you know what I'm saying, or shoot them in their leg to hold them. They're shooting to kill. So when they shooting, most of the shots are going to be kill shots. It sounds kind of messed up, sounds kind of crazy, but that's how they're trained. So if somebody does try to police, it's going to be, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be death. Just being realistic. They shoot to kill. Military, my brother's in the military, they shoot to kill. It's not, let me shoot him in his knee so he can stop shooting at him. No, shoot him. Make sure he's dead, right? Confirm your kill, X, Y, Z. So anytime a situation like that happens, that's already a problem, right? And sometimes people don't realize when they wrong, they come up with different things, right? I was with somebody and they had a license plate. And the license plate, they didn't have one in the front, right? They had it, but they didn't have it in the front. But that's illegal in Maryland, right? And they like, well, look, I got a car from a such and such state. Well, look, that was that state. The state's a little different, right? Instead of you just taking the ticket like, oh, I didn't know, I'm sorry. You kind of trying to fight the law. You're wrong. Wrong is wrong, right? I didn't have my ID on me. You're trying to give me a ticket for that. I'm technically wrong, right? If he give me a ticket, and if I can really fight because I know the rules, I'm supposed to have my ID on me at all times, right? I learned that when I was like 15. right? When I didn't have an ID, they were like, you gotta get an ID. When I'm 15 years old, I need an ID for I got school ID. Is that cool? No. You gotta get one from identification purposes. Cool, not a problem. But I would have been wrong. I can't justify. But when you start trying to justify wrongs, so the whole day the person got an attitude. Nah, look, it's okay. You got a ticket or whatever. Could be a repair order. If you're nice about it, just hey, I didn't know, officer. Sorry. Can you give me some grace? They don't even say that. They just like, nah, that's crazy. I don't. Now you start fighting. You don't want that, right? Proverbs 14:24. It says, the crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly, right? So the crown of the wise is riches, right? So when you got things, you got blessings, right? That's like Solomon had. He was so wise, God gave him all this stuff, right? But then when they foolish, everything that you like had that's like a possession for your riches, it become folly, right? So now you consider the clown or somebody who doing all these bad things. Like I said, when you foolish, some things follow you. I tell people all the time, you can be infamous, but you can't be unfamous, right? So you famous, you can't unfamous. People still gonna know you, right? To this day, I still know stories when I was a kid when the internet wasn't even what it was today, right? Them people are infamous. When you make a mistake or you do something, you're always gonna be known for something, right? And a lot of time that comes with foolishness, right? Because when somebody do something really good, really just and positive, it's not really looked like that. But when it's foolish, there's always something to talk about. When there's a fight or somebody doing something crazy or something like that, they're gonna blast us forever, right? So when you do foolish things, your folly becomes your riches and glory, right? They're just gonna know you as this old fool, this dumb person, right? You don't want to live life like that. You don't want to live life like that, right? Proverbs 21:20 says, there is treasure to be desired and oil in the dwelling of the wise, but the foolish man spendeth up, right? Spendeth it up. So yeah, so when you wise, of course you desire treasures. And I'm pretty sure the foolish man does too, right? But then when you're spending your money unwisely, you're spending all this stuff unwisely, you ain't got nothing, right? That's a foolish decision. You know you ain't got the money, you go in debt. I've been there. You ain't got the money, you still, I'm gonna just buy this. And I'm about it. Next thing you know, like, ooh, now you can't keep up with the payments on the credit card. Or now you spent this and now something else did happen, right? Now you need new tires. Now you need something, right? All the once is gone, right? Because you've been spending everything up, right? And people always say, well, I ain't got no money. I ain't got no money. I'm not paying people money, right? But then I start looking at decisions. Like, yeah, one of my friends when I was younger, this was years ago, he said he spent like $900 on cigarettes, alcohol, and weed every month. I'm like, well, you don't make that much money, so that's a lot of money. He like, yeah, I know. But in no time do he stop though. He just keep on doing it. And now even later, he's still doing it. And it's like, yeah, look, man, you made $100,000 last year. You said you didn't even realize that. You don't even know where it went, right? Because just because it's $5, that doesn't mean it don't add up. It was this guy I met when I was doing construction a few years ago, and he just smoked cigarettes. And he was like, him and his wife stopped smoking cigarettes. And he wanted to see like how much money he was spending. He said him and his wife started smoking cigarettes to the point where the money they save, I guess they put like in a little jar or something, or some type of fund. The money they saved each year smoking cigarettes, they were able to go on vacation, pay for their Christmases. All this is all this, just the money from cigarettes, pay for their vacation, Christmas, and still have money saved over. And I thought about it. Y'all smoking that much cigarettes? Just cigarettes, right? Some type of vice that you got, right? So he was doing foolish things, and then he switched it and made a wiser decision, right? Now, mind you, when he switched it to start smoking cigarettes to make a wise decision, save money, he still can go into another vice or whatever and make more foolish decisions. But he switched it up, and he couldn't. And that was the reason why he started smoking. Not because he didn't like the smoking, not because he had lung cancer, not because it was damaging, because he found out how much money he was wasting. Somebody had told him, like, yeah, $5 add up, $10 add up. I tell me this all the time. You buy 2 meals a day, right? The average meal like $15, right? You buy 2 meals, that's 30. 30 times 5 is 150. We're not even including the weekends. So for 4 weeks, you're going to work, you're spending 2 meals, you're probably eating dinner, you're probably eating lunch. That's $600 just in meals, right? And we're not including the weekend. So the weekend you might eat breakfast or something else. $600. Well, you could have probably spent $100 per week, and you'd have had food for all 7 days, right? But that'd be the difference. That's a wise decision compared to a foolish one, right? So we don't want to be fools out here. Everything we want to do it in a wise manner, right? Proverbs chapter 29, verses 9 through 11. It says, if a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest. The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keep it in until afterwards, right? So this first one, this is really big. It said, if a wise man contendeth with a foolish man, whether he rage or laugh, there is no rest, right? And this is saying that, look, I told y'all, if the wise man riches, right, that's his crown, that's his treasure, right? Because he being smart. The foolish man treasures is being a fool. This is what he do. There's no end to this, because now he feel more rich at what he doing. He argue with you, back and forth, laughing, yelling, all this. This is his glory. He living in this. That's not what you do. And you contend with this person. That don't make any sense. I had to tell these women at work. I would say, look, man, these girls I talk to, these ladies I talk to. I said, look, man, I used to be in the streets, and me trying to prove to myself that I'm a real person, I'm doing it to somebody who's fake, and I wind up serving real time, getting in real trouble for proving to somebody it's not even worth it, right? That's a wise man with a foolish man. But if I engage with this person that's foolish, I become foolish too, because I'm gonna suffer this penalty, right? And not realizing this is what he do though. He makes fun of himself. He's a clown. He's a goofy. But guess what I'm doing? I'm entertaining this. And like I said, there is no end to him, because that's what he does. This is his glory. This is his TV. This is his highlight of his life. That's not the highlight of my life, but it is of his life. So if I stay into this, I'll be subject to becoming a fool, right? Now I'm foolish too, right? The bloodthirsty hate the upright, but the just seek his soul. A fool utter for all his mind, right? Fools be talking about everything. Just talking, lying. Don't even know they telling themselves, stuff like they just talking about everything. Sometimes they're like, why you so quiet? What am I talking to y'all for? Sometimes y'all talking about stuff I don't even care about. Y'all talking about mischief and things like that. And it's just like really crazy. And sometimes I don't even care. Right? Like people be knowing like other people's like how do you know a celebrity's weight of their baby they had? Like, I don't care about the weight of that baby. Like, I care about the baby good, the baby doing good, the baby's righteous. That's all I care about. I don't care how much the baby weighed. I don't care what shoes the baby got on. I don't even care what the baby name is. Like, that's irrelevant to me. Like, but like I said, some people get into this point where now they utter all they got in their mind. They talking about this, talking about that, right? And what's crazy is the part that they do keep to themselves is the part that's truthful, right? The part that's probably wise. They keep that to themselves, right? But all the foolishness comes out. Talking to people all crazy, calling people all their names. I never understood it. Doesn't make any sense. I really don't understand it now as I'm serving God, but I never understood it back then, right? So I'm gonna give y'all a few examples and some stories. So first, it's gonna be a couple of examples from Job and the book of Ecclesiastes, and I'm gonna give y'all some stories about people in the Bible that were foolish. So this is Job 32, 8 and 9. It said, but there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding. Great men are not always wise, neither do the age understand judgment. Solomon was a lot wiser than David, but David was great in the Lord's eyes, right? Because the Almighty giving him understanding. So David had understanding. He was doing what he was supposed to do. Solomon is a lot wiser. He wasn't doing what he was doing. So just because somebody is wise, that don't necessarily make them great neither, right? It said neither do they age or understand the judgment, right? Solomon, once he wrote all them books later, he realized I messed up everything, boy. I messed up the whole kingdom. Now God has split the kingdoms. He taking away all this and taking away from that, giving them most of the stuff that I had, all this. Everything I messed up because you was being unwise. And he realized that. And this is where you get the books of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes and stuff like that. Because once he hit rock bottom, he like, well, I know that was wrong, right? But just because somebody's wise, it don't mean they're great. You can be great and not wise, because in reality, if you're just following God, right, he give you the understanding, he give you all the power, right? Just because you're wise don't mean you're going to be necessarily great, right? Satan is wise. That don't mean he's great, right? And this is all according to God's eyes. But see, us, we don't look at it like that. We look at greatness as, oh, you won 15 championships, or you were 6-0 in the finals, or you did this and you did that. God don't care about none of that, right? We see that as great, but God don't care about that, because a lot of that stuff is subjective, if not almost all of it, right? Ecclesiastes 4:13, chapter 4, verse 13 and 14. It says, better is a poor and a wise child than an old and foolish king, who will no more be admonished. For out of prison he cometh to reign, whereas also he that is born in his kingdom becometh poor, right? So it's talking about a king who's wise, who's foolish, right? Because he's a king, so he at the top of the mountain like Solomon was. Once you at the top, you feel like there's no more understanding you can get. There's no more gain and no more wisdom you can get, right? So it says, "Who will no more be admonished?" So you feel like you're just smart. A lot of people feel like that when they get in a position, they up high, they almighty. Oh no, God brings down the prideful, right? And now you can't tell them nothing. But see, it says better be poor and wise because look, one, you poor, so you ain't got nothing. So when you do get stuff, you already know what to do with it because you're already making fit with what you got now because you poor. So you still getting your daily bread. You still got a little bit of clothes. It might be dirty, it might be ripped up, but hey, you still making it, right? Shoes messed up, you cool. So when you get older, as long as you stay in that wise mindset, you can appreciate all these things. The king, you're already born in the kingdom, right? So when you become poor, you don't know what this feel like because all you know is riches. But the problem is that not because you was born in the kingdom, you become poor because Moses was born in the kingdom, right? And he came out. But the difference between Moses and the king like this, a foolish king, Moses was never not too good to get more wisdom, right? More advice, more counsel, right? He still would listen, right? He got his problems, like everybody got their problems, but he still would listen compared to most people, like I said, kings, presidents, your bosses at some of your jobs, they ain't listening to nobody. Even some of your parents. I'm your parent, you can't tell me nothing. So you just can't be told nothing. Nobody can't teach you nothing, anything. You just you about to be God Almighty, right? But I know you're not. But just think about that mindset, right? You can't do nothing. So they say, for out of prison, you come into reign, right? Because when you come out of prison, it's like Joseph, right? Talking about Joseph, you come out of prison ready to reign because you got all the things you already need, and you got them during that poor mind state, when that poor situation, but your mental was still wise and was still good. Like your mental wasn't poor, your conditions was just poor, right? But that don't mean you can't make it, right? Compared to a king, his conditions as well, so he ain't thinking about nothing. It's almost like if God gave you money, you not wise, what you gonna do is blow it, right? You're gonna mess everything up. And I'm gonna show you exactly what I'm talking about in this story. Is this the story? Yep, right here. So this is Luke chapter 12, verse 16 and 21. This is a foolish guy, but he got a lot of money, got a lot of stuff. Luke 12, 16 to 21. It says, and he spake a parable unto them, saying, the ground of a certain man, rich man, brought forth plentifully. And he thought within himself, saying, what shall I do? Because I have no room where to bestow my fruits. And he said, this will I do. I will pull down my barns and build greater. And there will I bestow all my fruits and my goods. And I will say to my soul, soul, thou hast much goods laid up for many years. Take thy ease, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said unto him, thou fool, this night thou shalt so be required of thee. Then who shall those things be which thou hast provided? So is he that layeth up treasure for himself and is not rich towards God. See, being rich in the world is not the same being rich towards God. Because he did have a lot of stuff, right? Got a lot of fruit, got a lot of harvest. He had so much to the point where when he was going to build his new barns that he could just relax the rest of his life. Almost like somebody winning the lottery, right? So now that you do this, right, you don't got no worries. But when you don't got no worries, you're not depending on God because you're thinking the next day and the next day going to be all that. It's going to be good because you got all the things that satisfy you. You got the food, you got shelter, you got all this stuff, right? Now, mind you, God could take it any way. He took it from him, right? Took his life away that same night, right? So everything that he built up, now it's going to be belong to somebody else. The scavengers, the poor people, whoever going to come take it. It might be for another king, right? But you're not realize just because you got all these riches and stuff, that don't make you rich towards God. What make you rich towards God is following his commandments. What make you rich towards God is, being with God in your heart, right? Obeying God's ways, obeying God's laws, walking in his truth. That's a risk to God, right? When God blessing you with children. And the reason why I say blessing you with children, now, according to the Bible, I can't think of seeing another scriptures, but just as from what I'm learning so far, Solomon has 700 like wives, 300 concubines. Solomon has 3 children. Now, David got plenty of sons. Other people, Jacob, everybody got plenty of sons. Solomon only has 3 children, right? Because he's not rich towards God no more, right? You are rich in things, though. You got all the gold, got the big house, all that, but you're not rich. You got 1 son and 2 daughters, right? Now, some people say that he has more children. If he do, God don't count that for his richness, right? So the difference between richness and God. So even when, like I said, we wise and unwise, it's a difference between looking in our eyes and God's eyes. Like I was telling my brother one day, we was having a conversation. It was at Disney World, I think, and I was asking him what an octopus was because he said a dolphin is a mammal. I was like, it's a fish. He was like, it's a mammal. I was like, man, they didn't classify these things wrong to confuse you. I said, for instance, it was octopus, right? What they would call like a crustacean, or I forgot what they call an octopus. It's a crustacean or something else. Somebody in the chat might help me. But I said it's a fish, right? I said because it belongs in the water, it can't live outside the water, right? All the outside the water, he's not gonna live that long, right? But I said we done overclassified things, right, on purpose because it gets away from God. But the way God sees stuff is not the same way we see stuff. So this guy got all this fruit. And what he did to tear it down was smart. Was like, yeah, but he never thought about what if somebody come and take all your fruit? What if something happens to your fruit and start rotting? All your food start. You ain't even thinking about all that. Just about what you just had, and you're like, yeah, I made it, I got it. It's almost like I said, somebody who want to check, they're not realizing it's a day-to-day life. It's not the next day. It's not the weeks. Like when in the Bible, it's like everything is day by day. Now God may say like it shall come to pass, but even still, you don't know when that's coming. It could be the next day. It could be 50 years from now. Like when he told Abraham the promise, I think Abraham might have been like 70, 75. He didn't wind up having Isaac until he was like almost like 100, right? That's 25 years. You don't know when it's coming, right? And he never told him when it was coming. He was like, look, it's going to come to pass, right? I'll let my brother would say soon. You don't know when it's coming. So like, yeah, you got all this food, but you don't know what's going to happen. You can have all these animals come take your food. Y'all can be in captivity soon. You don't know what's going on, but you think you got it all, right? Think you wise, think you smart. Nah, you're really foolish. Not realizing that that's not how it works in God's eyes, right? So this story is Matthew 7:24-7. This is about the person that builds the house on the sand, I believe, right? So this is Christ speaking. It says, therefore, whosoever heareth these sayings of mine, doeth them, I will liken unto him unto a wise man, which built his house upon a rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. Everyone that heareth these sayings of mine and doeth them not shall be likened unto a foolish man, which built his house upon the sand. And the rains descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and beat up upon that house, and it fell, and great was the fall of it, right? So this is somebody being foolish who built a house upon sand. If you don't know what sand is like glass. All right, that's basically what sand is. It's glass, like really, 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 really fine pieces of glass, right? But the problem with sand is it's not like rock, right? It's not solid. So if you put enough pressure on sand, it's gonna cave in, right? No matter what, right? When you jump on a rock, you just stop. You get planted. You jump on sand, it go in a little bit and in a little bit, right? And it'll keep digging in. If you ever play with sand, it's really fine. It goes down. You can mold it, do stuff. You can't do that with rock, right? It can take a lot of more power. And what he was saying is like, look, you put your house on sand, right? That's your foundation. I tell you all the time, your foundation matters a lot. In your marriage, your job, where you live at, your foundation matters. And it should be God. So the reason why your foundation matters is thinking about like the Three Little Pigs is a great story for this. Your house made of straw, right? You get blown down, made of sticks. Because these are not strong foundations. The rock is, though, right? Which is crazy that they stole this from the God. But the rock is a strong foundation. But let's say you and your significant other or you and your church, whatever, y'all build y'all foundation, right? Some of it's mud, some of it might be rock, some of it might be like sticks and grass and straw or whatever, or just to give it to you in a better term, when you're following God, right? You want to be in Christianity and you believe in the Trinity, but this person don't, right? When y'all have problems, y'all got to go back to y'all foundations. Right, your foundation says this, their foundation says this. That's two different things, right? You're never going to be able to build on that because you're building with one material and they're building with another. So if I'm building this side with straw and you're building your side with brick, when it's windy, your side going to blow down. So now we got to build your side back up again. Then you got to come to my side, but my side, I don't have enough room for you to be over here because I only made it for my side. Vice versa. Let's say it was the other person and what happened? You can't keep building. So let's say you build. It's rock and it's straw. On this side, you build the rock over the straw, and then you build straw on top of that, right? When that straw, the bottom fall down, the brick gonna fall because of what the bottom is built off of, right? If anybody know, like I said, you go like buildings, anything, you knock out the bottom, everything else gonna fall. So the foundation is the most critical part. The foundation is so critical. When you're building a house and you gotta lay cement, you gotta have somebody come out there and inspect it, just so the house don't fall apart. Because whatever else you're doing, you want to be building a house out of wood, stick, that's cool. That's what you want to do. But the foundation, because when everything blow down, they don't want all this craziness happen. So your foundation is the most solid part, no matter where it's in your life. Even when you're playing sports, you're boxing, the energy comes from your legs. When you're playing baseball, energy comes from your legs. Everything is from the bottom up, right? If you looked at like the 9/11 when the towers fell, towers ain't fall because no plane hit the building. That's another topic for another day. I don't think a plane hit the building, but if you look, it came down from the bottom like a demolition. Like when they do the demolition, all the bombs are at the bottom, right? Because once the bottom fall, ain't nothing to support anything, right? So your foundation is key. This person built it on sand, which is a horrible foundation. I've seen people make a trench with sand, like with their hands, like they bare hands, like no machines enough, made a whole trench, and they made the ocean come in and cause a serious of problems out there just with their hands. Sand is pretty weak, but it's good for what it's good for. But when you want to build something, don't build that on sand. That'd be the worst thing you can do, right? So building on sand is like having a bad foundation, right? This is one of my favorite stories because it was part of my life when I wasn't listening, trying to save somebody else. Matthew 25, verses 1 through 13, right? This is the story of the bridegrooms and the 10 virgins, right? It says, then shall the kingdom of heaven be likened unto 10 virgins, which took their lamps and went forth to meet the bridegroom. And 5 of them were wise, and 5 were foolish. They that were foolish took their lamps and took no oil with them, right? They ain't take no extra oil. So they got oil in their lamp, but they ain't got no extra oil. But the wise took oil in their vessels with their lamps. So they got extra oil, right? Because you never know, right? So it says, while the bridegroom tarried, they all slumbered and slept. All right, so that means wait. And at midnight, there was a cry made, behold, the bridegroom cometh, go you out to meet him. Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. And the foolish said unto the wise, give us of your oil, for our lamps are gone out. But the wise answered, saying, no, not so, lest there be not enough for us and you, but go you farther rather to them that sell and buy for yourselves. And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and they that were ready went and within him to the marriage. And the door was shut. Afterwards came also the other virgins, saying, Lord, Lord, open to us. But he answered and said, verily I say unto you, I know you not. Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour wherein the Son of Man cometh, right? So this one is a lot to unpack, but this is one of my favorite things. At the time in my ex-relationship, I was with somebody and I was smoking, right? And I was smoking because I was like, you know what? We have better conversations when they're smoking. So I'm gonna start smoking, right? I'm smoking, trying to get, closer to them. But I'm sinning to get closer to somebody else sinning. That's not what God wants you to do. They want you to pull people from out of sin by teaching them wise things and you being the light, being an example. But you don't go in the strip club and become a stripper to help a stripper scout strip club. You don't go in the street to sell drugs, help the drug dealers scout drugs, right? You don't go to a thief and like, I'm gonna rob a bank with you and talk to them about God. Like, yeah, John 3:16 said this, give me all the money. Shouldn't be doing all that, right? You're supposed to be setting an example, right? So with me not setting an example, my brother's mother had sent me a message, right? And she had sent me this story. I ain't paying no attention to it, right? Later on, I wound up going to work and somebody didn't tape up one of the boxes, rolled it, fell on my foot, broke my toe. I wound up losing my job because I had to pee. And I wound up peeing and it came out dirty. Well, I didn't lose my job, I quit. Well, same thing. But I had to quit so I didn't get fired and get in trouble, right? But long story short, I was trying to save somebody, right? So I'm trying to give something like, so let's say God has favor on me and God is saying, yeah, you can get into heaven. I can't share my ticket. Everybody got their own ticket. It's one seat. I can't split my ticket in half and like, well, look, it's my ticket. Don't it vouch for her? No, because it's not a full ticket. You got to pay the full admission. It was $10 to get in. I only got 5 and I got 5. God not let you slide, right? Because the standard's still the same. We go through different testimonies, we go through different things, but the standard's still the same. So I'm over here, and it's nothing against this person. This is all me. I'm just giving an example of me. I'm trying to save somebody by, like I said, doing what they did. They said bring extra oil. So when you're going through, you might run out of oil. When it's time to go, you got to get some oil. So we going this way because we got the extra oil, but you don't have the extra oil. You got to go backwards, then come back. But not realizing they say you don't know when the Son of Man coming. So there's a time limit. So since there's a time limit, you may not have that time. So you got to be prepared. I tell you all the time when I was carrying my gun, right? It's not that I want to use it, but I'd rather have it because I got to use it than not have it at all. Right, because let's say I don't got it, and I get I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Hold on, bro. Let me run to my house real quick. It's like 15 minutes to get my gun and come back. That's not how this works, right? I ain't got my gun. He gonna beat me up or shoot me or do whatever he gotta do because I wasn't prepared, right? So it's about being prepared. But not only are you being prepared, if you were listening, like God was saying, you was listening, you wouldn't have had this problem, right? But you thought you could just, I'm gonna do this, and now you're basing your faith off of something that God didn't even tell you, because now you can't have your faith based off of what you just know. It gotta be what God's telling you. Clearly, they was told and instructed to bring extra oil because that's the wiser thing to do. They said the other girls were foolish. They didn't bring no oil, thinking that they can use some of theirs. So like I said, let's say they did use some of theirs. You may need, let's say the oil is 100%, right? Or 100 liters of oil, right? Which I know it's not the real case, but let's say it's 100 liters of oil. And you need 100 to get back to that point to get to the bridegroom. But let's say I give you some. When I get to 90, I'm going to run out of light. So I ain't got no more oil. I'm not going to make it. If I do make it, I can't really see. So now I'm banking on faith again, right? But this is a different kind of faith because that's not what I was told to do. But if all of us had our oil, 100%, we good, right? You can't save nobody. Like I said, you can't split the emission. Everybody got to pay the price, right? Whatever the price is, you got to pay. Even when Christ was talking about the daily wages, no matter when you start working, you get a penny. When you get a penny, you work 8 hours, you get a penny. He worked an hour, you get a penny, X, Y, Z. And they'll complain about that. Well, I work more. The rules are already set, the daily wages, right? So just like us, like the mission, let's say the mission to get in is this. I can't share my salvation. That's what I never seen in the Bible. I can't share my salvation. To each man is his own to save himself, his own salvation, to work out his own salvation. I can't share it. So like I said, if I got to try to get somebody in the kingdom, I can't be like, look, God, I got $20. I know it's cost $20, but look, I got $2 spare for them. You short $2, you can't get in either. They don't got it, and neither do you. You can split it halfway. It's not how this works, right? So that's one of my probably most favorite parables in the whole book, right? Especially because I experienced it and it was basically like part of my life, right? Oh, so Titus is not up there. That's crazy. Give me 1 second. You got to see Titus. That's the whole point. 1 second. How that happen? There we go. All right, cool. They don't know what we do. 1 second. Apologies. Bear with me. Of course, it didn't change up here. There we go. There we go. Boy, God is good. Always will fix a situation. So let's see. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I don't know how that happened. Satan be working. All right. So this is the last scripture. Titus chapter 3, verses 3-7. It says, "For we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, disobedient, deceived, serving divers lusts and pleasures, living in malice and envy, hateful and hating one another. But after that, the kindness and love of God, our Savior, toward man appeared, not by works of righteousness, which we have done, but according to his mercy, he saved us by the washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Ghost, which he has shed on us abundantly through Yeshua, our Savior, that being justified by his grace, we should be made heirs according to the hope of eternal life," right? So it says that we were all foolish, right, in times before, disobedient, being deceitful, serving divers lusts, pleasures, living in malice, hateful to one another. But then said the kindness of love of God, Savior, toward us appeared, right? So what it's saying basically, like I tell people all the time, like we all been foolish before, right? Even David was foolish when he met David Bathsheba. Like he was a little bit foolish when he did the counting of the army, did the census, because he didn't even take the whole census. He only took the census of the army, right? And he was even warned. Joab came to him like, "Hey, you should be doing that." And he was like, "Man, don't worry about all that. Just count." All right, cool. I'm gonna still count. It's not gonna be good, but I'm gonna count anyway. And he counted or whatever, and he had to pay the penalty, right? Or they had to pay the penalty. Not say he, but they had to pay the penalty.
But we all been deceived before. We all been doing all this, been disobedient, right? So I don't talk bad about somebody that does that or whatever the case may be. But if I'm talking to somebody and I'm trying to say they sold because he who wins souls is wise, and they continue to do that, I ain't about to hang around you. There's no point because I'm not on that, right? It's after the kindness and love of our God, our Savior towards man appeared, not by works of righteousness which we done, but according to his mercy, he saved us, right? The washing of regeneration and renewing of the Holy Spirit. So what I'm going to do is change my life around. I'm not knocking you for doing that because we all did that, right? They saying we all did that. We all do foolish things, right? But we're not supposed to live foolishly. It's a difference between being foolish, right, and being wise, or making a foolish decision and making a wise decision. It's a big difference. It's the same thing as sin. Yeah, you may sin, but it's different between you living in sin or practicing sin compared to when you're not, right? Yeah, you righteous, do the right thing, and temptation may overtake you because you may just become super weak and you're not ready, right? Example is when Christ is praying before his last hour, and the disciples keep falling asleep, and he kind of mad at them, but at the same time he realized, like, look, y'all spirit willing, but y'all flesh giving up on you, right? And it happens sometimes, right? Now, mind you, it doesn't mean that you can't avoid the sin because God will always make a way out. But you put yourself in such a situation sometimes, they could be like, look, man, we sleepy, right? But they wanted to do right so bad, they tried to stay up, but they couldn't. It's the same thing. You're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, but it's different between you living in them and stuff like that. So anybody, I tell people all the time that's doing this and doing that, I tell them, look, man, I'm concerned about your soul. I don't think you should be having 5 coffees. I don't think you should be smoking weed, this and that. Now you're gonna do it, but if you constantly do it, I can't hang around you. You constantly want to do bad things, I can't hang around you, right? Because with my level of understanding, I gotta grow. And if we gotta grow, I can't be around those things. I can't endanger myself because now it opens me up for temptation. Right? I may have had a problem smoking weed. I may have had a drinking problem, right? I may have had a problem with girls. I can't put myself in that situation. I ain't going to the club because I know what I used to do in the club. And I ain't here to dance like Michael Jackson. That's not what I'm here for, right? Like I know certain things in my life what I used to do, right? And now that I know that, that's me making a wise decision compared to a foolish decision. Like I said, everybody was foolish. It says, for we ourselves also were sometimes foolish. Didn't say we was foolish all the time, but yeah, you make foolish decisions. But since you're learning God, you're learning the new ways, you can't be foolish no more because it's going to cost you, right? Especially because you know about God now. When you ain't know about God, it's a little different situation. But now that you know about God and you still choose to be foolish, oh, it's going to cost you. Might cost you a little bit, might cost you a lot, but it's going to cost you. That's for sure, right? So as we look forward into our lives, like today and tomorrow, or just today, really, because you don't need to make it tomorrow. But as you look forward today, and in future times, you thanking God that you woke up the next day and the day after that. Think about your daily decisions. Is it wise to speak evil towards somebody? Is it wise to say that? Sometimes you just keep that to yourself, right? It was a guy cursing David, saying David was this, David was bad. And David didn't even do nothing this time, but it was a dude just cursing him out. David was like, you know what? We could kill him. Because basically, can't nobody really beat us. We've been whipping everybody. Everybody tells with this long. But she said, you know what? The fact that he cursing me, God letting it happen, it must be for a reason. Let him do it. Right? And he let him curse him out. And David still wound up becoming the king, still, being in a position he was supposed to be in, all those things, but he let that slide. Sometimes it ain't even worth it, right? So this dude could actually be in a fool, right? And that's a wild decision on David's part. Like, let God handle that, right? If somebody cursed me, cool, let God handle that, right? When it's time to defend myself, God made my hands strong. He made them for war. They ready. But I don't have to engage in certain stuff. I don't have to react to somebody telling me or calling me out my name, right? Because like I said, that might be how they live, right? Like I said, because like now in the world that we live in, people celebrate, people support foolishness, right? They put it on the pedestal, they make it glorious, right? It's a show called Jackass. That's foolishness, right? People be on TV, and it was crazy because when that show was out, people were like frowned upon that show, but now that's what the whole world is. Right, just doing whatever, right? And that's all that is supposed to be somebody to being ignorant. So excuse my language if you're offended by it, but it's somebody supposed to be ignorant, right? And that's what they was doing, being ignorant. But now I see people do ignorant stuff just to get likes and views because they try to go popular, right? You built your whole life off folly, and you know what's going crazy? We're gonna remember you for that folly. people be eating out of toilets and all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, who does that? You did all that for what? Nah, I'm good. God put my food in a bowl. He put it on the plate. I'm going to eat, right? I don't have to show me and my significant other's relationship. I don't have to show everything my family does. I don't have to do all that. What you doing it for? Then when somebody comment on your page, you mad. Nah, I'm not going to live like that. I'm going to live wise. I'm going to stay wise, and I'm going to keep doing wise things, right? And that's the way I want to live. That's the way I want to keep it. So when y'all out and about and y'all doing y'all things, whether it's food, whether it's your job, whether it's a car, whether it's your family, whoever, think about the decisions you make and think if they wise and think they unwise, right? Because there's consequences to everything. Some good consequences, some bad consequences. But usually when it's foolish, there's always a consequence. Like I said, people will try to do big stuff just to fight, make a scene. People will do this because they get away with it. And sometimes fools get away with a lot of stuff too, right? And usually it's because other people entertain the foolishness, right? Because the fool can't do nothing, nobody entertain it. But they entertain it and they support the foolishness. If you a child of the light, you a child of God, you don't entertain foolishness, you don't deal with foolishness. Can you make a mistake? Sure. But like I said, when you do something that's unwise, you just do it just because you're going to pay for it. You say you may pay for a little, may pay for a lot, but you're going to pay for it. So as you like today and further out, it's God keep blessing you to stay alive each day to get yourself together. Make sure you're making more wise decisions, right? So that was today's lesson. Anybody got any questions, comments, or concerns? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Remember to drink your Ovaltine. All right, so I don't see nothing. So just to make sure, the feast, the Passover, Purim is in 29 days on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. Hope to see y'all there. If not, you're going to be online, whatnot. I posted a couple videos this week. One was about drinking, the aspects of drinking, because people always talk about drinking. And I posted one the other day, yesterday or the day before yesterday, about tongues, because that's usually a big topic in the church about speaking in tongues. So always check on the channel and watch those videos. That's not these Saturday Sabbath lessons about your daily life. You can watch those videos and learn more. And like I said, more come. I try to post every week. But I thank everybody for coming. I hope everybody have a wonderful, blessed day. I love everybody. And Shalom, family. Shalom.